To make this Koru heart, I'm going to be using wash away stabiliser, my 5x7 hoop, masking tape or painter's tape, red thread with matching bobbin, curved scissors, and I've got batting, cutaway stabiliser that I'm going to float on top of the batting, which I will explain why later. Then I've got my fabrics, one for the back and one for the front, and some cream fabric as the contrast, and I'm going to be floating some lace on top of that because the cream is actually curtain lining. I've loaded the design and my thread and matching bobbin into my machine, and now I'm going to hoop my stabiliser, my wash away stabiliser that is. I'm now going to load that into my machine, and I'm going to stitch round number 1, which is going to give me the outline for placing my batting. I'm using a polyester wadding here, and as you can see it's quite open and quite a loose consistency, if you like, and I'm going to place that down but with a cutaway stabiliser on top. Now the reason I'm doing this is twofold. One is so that the foot, when it's stitching this down, doesn't actually get caught up in the wadding, and secondly I like some stabiliser to remain in whatever I've made so that once it's washed the stitching is still supported. So by using cutaway stabiliser it does this, and it won't show afterwards because we're going to be cutting it away up to the outline. So I'm just going to stick this down in place so that it doesn't shift during stitching. I'll pop that back into my machine and stitch round number 2 that's going to attach both of them to the stabiliser. Before I put my fabrics in place, I'm going to trim back the excess batting and stabiliser here because it just makes it easier when it comes to trimming up later on. You can do it later, but I'm not. Okay, next comes the placement of my first fabric. Now if you're putting the lighter fabric on the left hand side, you won't have to cut away in here. If you're putting your darker fabric on the left hand side and a lighter fabric on the right, you will have to cut away the excess in here so that it doesn't show through your fabric. So I'm using my lightest, the cream, on this side. So I'm going to place it over, and the area that I want to cover is all the outline, okay, and I'm going to place my lace over the top as well, and I'm going to tape it in position so that it can't move during the stitching. And I'm going to put my lace on the edge. I can feel through here where the edge is so that I can make sure that it covers all the area that I want it to, because it's slightly narrower than my actual fabric. I'm just going to put a little bit more tape here just to hold that over. I can feel through here the stitch line, so it doesn't make it difficult to place it at all. Okay, I'm now going to pop that back in my machine and stitch round number 3. I'm going to remove the tape and then start trimming up my fabric. Okay, the area that I'm going to trim up is going to be around here. I want to leave this all in place. As I said before, if you've got your darker fabric this side, you will have to trim up around this area here as well. But for now, I'm just going to trim around here. Okay, I'll leave that there for a minute. So next I'm going to put my second fabric, my contrasting fabric, to cover this area here. And as before, I'm going to just tape it in place so that it doesn't move during stitching. I'll pop that back in my machine and stitch around number 4. I'm now going to remove all the excess fabric from the design, and first I'm going to remove the tape. And I'm going to start here. It'll probably be easier for you to see if I actually start at the bottom, so I start there. I've got to be careful not to cut my lace underneath. And I'm just following the stitch line. Okay, so the next round of stitching is going to be the left here, and there's going to be stippling one side and quilting the other. I'm leaving my thread in red so that you can see what's going on, but you can use 2 different colours here if you wish. So now will be the time to load your first colour if you wanted to change it, to do the stitching on the left hand side. I'm now going to stitch round number 5, but I'm going to be keeping a vigilant eye on it because of the lace on top, so just to make sure that the foot doesn't get caught in the lace and bend and break the needle basically. So here we go. Next is round number 6, which is a stippling on the other side. Next we're going to add the backing fabric, so I'm going to turn my hoop over. Now if you wanted to this into a little wall hanging, you could add a loop of ribbon on the back here. I've got a piece to hand here. I'm not putting one on, but I will show you where you can attach it. So what I do is I do a cross with mine so that the loop sits nicely. Then I will place that there and then put some tape across here and across here, and obviously trim these tails up because they're going to be hidden inside once the backing is placed over the top. And with the outline to attach the backing, that will secure your ribbon in place. I'm not doing that on this one, but at least you know how to do it. So I'm going to add my backing fabric, so place that over the outline, and as before I'm going to tape it down. If you want to float it underneath your hoop while it's still in the machine, you can do so, but just for the sake of people that aren't so confident, I'm going to do it this way. Okay, so that's now secured. I'm going to place that back into my machine and stitch round number 7. Before I go any further, I just wanted to mention, because I've got fabrics that meet here and overlap, I've put some tape just to hold them down and in place so that they don't catch on the foot and ruin my work. Anywhere where there's a join where you've got fabrics overlapping, I like to do this. I'm now going to remove the tape and trim back all the excess fabric, both front and back. Okay, now that that's done, I can pop that back in my machine and stitch round number 8, which will zigzag all the raw edges. Now that the zigzagging's been done, I would advise you to just check around the edges to make sure that there's no threads poking out that will spoil the finish of your heart. Now I've noticed here that I've got a few here, so I'm just going to trim them up. And if you find that you've got quite a bit or it's poking out a long way, cut it right the way back, and then if you need to, stitch the zigzag round again. Okay, that's okay. I'm now going to pop this back into my machine and stitch round number 9, which is going to do the satin stitching around this edge here. Next I'm going to stitch the other half, the right hand side, with round number 10. If you wanted to change your thread for this, now is the time to change it before you stitch it. Next, all that remains is to free this from the hoop and get rid of the washaway stabiliser from around the edge. So I'm going to start off by cutting this out of the stabiliser, and I'm cutting close to the stitching but without nicking any of it. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to take a cotton bud with some water and just run it around the edges to get rid of the soluble. When this is washed for the first time, the water-soluble stabiliser that's inside it will disappear, and the cutaway stabiliser that I laid over the batting will remain in order to support all the stitching. And there it is, my Koru heart. I hope you enjoyed this stitch along. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new videos as they are published. And thank you very much for joining me.